This is Super Black. I'm Carl.
I'm Dan.
What's up, people? Welcome back to another episode. Post Comic Con, we're in the glow of nerddom. Dan and I hit up Comic Con on the New York Comic Con on the Thursday edition, and we had a little bit of fun. We didn't spend too much time together. Dan, give me your feelings. How'd you feel about running into Comic Con in 2017?
Well, it's the first time about 3 years since I've been there, and it was really cool. Like it took a little doing getting out there because I had to kind of sneak away from work. Shh, don't tell anybody. It's always fun seeing people at their most natural self, and that's exactly what Comic Con is. Like the creativity comes out of everywhere. You know, the cosplay is always on point. This year I tried to stay away from the merchandising stuff and spent a lot of my time in the more independent publishers. I got to meet a few people out there, which was really, really cool. And I got the opportunity to sit down with Sanford Green and speak to him for a while. If nobody out there knows who Sanford Green is, he is the artist for one of my favorite comic books in a very long time. It's Power Man and Iron Fist.
Power Man and Iron Fist.
Yes, and he was absolutely amazing. Met a couple of website developers. Let me shout them out.
I'll vamp until you find it. So I agree. I think one of the underlying reasons that I pack up the family and go to Comic-Con, because when you look at it from the outset, well, let me just say, I'll double back. The reason I pack up the family and go to Comic-Con is because of that creativity, because everyone is out there celebrating something that they feel strongly about. You know, it's always and a positive thing that people feel strongly about. There's no negativity, at least that I saw, just having fun. So that's why I kind of go out there and walk the floor, because as I was saying, when you actually get into Comic-Con, it is a very oppressively crowded place. It's, I mean, elbows to butts, just there's no room for anything really. But on the flip side, as you're wading through the crowds, weird things tend to happen. Like we were kind of bumping elbows with folks trying to just navigate this very dense crowd of people, and all of a sudden, for some reason, the crowd opened up, and standing in front of me was a half-naked Princess Leia. Like, I'm telling you, she was naked she just had on the Leia outfit, and it was held together by invisible wire. So she
was it the metal bikini Leia?
Yeah, metal bikini Leia. Sorry.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah, but it was held together with like invisible wire, so it just looked like it was like glued on or something in certain places.
It probably was.
It probably was, but everyone's taking pictures of her. But we walked directly into a shot. We were like behind her, and I said, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was a nice place to end up. Like she looked nice. It was a very nice costume. But I was like, but my family and I are in a photo of some guy who took a picture of this, half naked woman.
If you go on comicbook.com and you look up the cosplay section, you'll probably be in the background of one of those pictures, because guaranteed they got her shot.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You walked into that shot.
You know what? I might look that up. And if you know what, if I can find myself, here's an interesting thing to do. If I can find myself, or if anyone listening knows what I look like and can find me in a cosplay photo, send it and I'll post it on the notes for this show. That'd be interesting. Is nice. Just in the wild, Super Black in the wild. Did you find the people you wanted to shout out?
Yes, I did. It's called comicattack.com.
Comicattack.com. A lot of people were hawking their wares. Is that the proper term? Promotion. They were promoting, including us. Well, they were promoting their podcasts and their websites and stuff like that. I was handed many a flyer
Mhm.
Um, and the strangest thing is that I get weirded out handing people stuff, and I think it's my own just being the type of person who, when someone tries to hand me something, I just turn it down flat. I never think anything, no ill will, but I'm just like, nah, I don't really have any place to put anything, so I'll just walk by.
So yeah, it's like I look at it as you're playing it by the numbers, and if you have a great elevator pitch to keep people interested, like this is one thing. Like okay, so Carl and I were probably only together for about an hour, hour and a half at most, right? So this is our first time walking through the aisles, and we made an effort of finding minority creators and seeing what they're all about. And we ran the gamut of people that spent all this money on these amazing booths and they did not know how to sell themselves. There's one booth we walked up on, and we won't name any names, but literally all the creators were on their phones and had their backs to the people that were walking through.
Oh, I'm talking about, folks. This was, you know, Dan is being very diplomatic and not wanting to name names. I won't name a name because I don't remember it. And the reason I don't remember it is because they didn't give us the time of day. And I can understand a bit that you have been on the show floor for however many hours, you're tired, you are, kind of dejected in some aspects because maybe you're not selling stuff or people aren't showing too much interest. But the fact that you've shown up to Comic Con, paid for a booth, and put your merchandise out, you should pitch that thing with the as if you couldn't sell it, like your child would fall into the ocean. Something like, get passionate about it. If you love your thing, and two men walk up and look genuinely interested in your wares, don't stand with your back to them. Like, the guy legitimately had his back to us and was talking to the other two gentlemen who were sitting down, both of which were on their phone, weren't even looking at the guy who was talking to them. They were responding, but completely ignored the two of us.
Hey, dude, like at one point, somebody has to say, "Is like, yo, we need to go get some coffee and get ourselves back up again and keep it moving because this is a
Something.
hustle."
But
And I
even
see
so,
it's like,
like,
and it's like the kicker for me was like I've followed these guys' work for a little while now, and I was genuinely excited to see them at Comic Con, right? Like I say I don't know them by name, but I know the product that they're trying to sell, right? So it's like, oh, what is this all about? And they had the most half-hearted pitch I've ever heard. It wasn't even a pitch, like literally, like they were talking in between Twitter, it's like in between tweeting or texting back and forth. Like literally, it was like these long gaps, right? And I get it because I went to Artist Alley. Like I said, I spoke to Sanford Green, but it's one of those things like where these artists there all day long talking to people. And like once again, like I'm 35, I'm a relatively big guy. So for me to fan out on somebody, for me to geek out on somebody, I can only imagine it's a little offsetting because it's like you're trying to like place this person with this much excitement for this product or
mhm.
for this medium, right? So some people are just like, I don't know how to deal with you right now, and I had to read that room or read that moment. It's like, okay, let me calm down a little bit and actually have a conversation with these people, right? Um, say, but at the same time, like I was at Comic Con 3 years ago. I was with a really good friend of ours, mutual friend Jen Moy, and she had a booth that year. And she's the one that taught me in that moment, like you have to be on your feet all day long. Like you're going to be tired, but you have to be willing to greet these people. And when people are genuinely interested, learn how to sell your product because that's what you're there doing. That's why you have that booth. You're there to sell yourself, sell your product.
And just to kind of contrast that, on the complete flip side, uh, I witnessed some of the best
Yes.
pitching I think in my entire adult life. This is the only time someone ever pitched me something that in the first, I don't know, 10 seconds, I was ready to buy whatever they were selling, but I wanted to hear the pitch as well. And I'm going to give a shout out to her now. Her name is Helena James, and she was pitching me this comic book called Kid Brooklyn. I I am from Brooklyn, born and raised, no playgrounds. And when I saw Kid Brooklyn as the title, I said, I'm interested. So I come around the corner, and this little, I don't know how old she is. I think she was 12.
Yeah, she was around like 10, 12. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And full of energy. I'm talking about, she's like, hey, do you want to hear the greatest, the pitch about the greatest comic book you've ever seen? And I was sure. And she's like, I'll tell you right, just wait right here. I'll give you the full. And she went into the most excited, passionate speech about this comic book that she is a part of. She's in it. She's on the cover. She's in the book. And I the moment she started talking, I was like, well, I'm gonna buy this. I mean, I don't care what else you say. You've already sold me with your passion. And then she says, and if you buy it now, I'll even sign the book. I was like, are you, yes, please sign this book for me. She goes, where do you want it? I can sign on the cover or I can sign on my picture inside. I said, slap that signature on the cover. I want it right up front. She goes, you know what? You're getting it in gold. This little girl pulled out a gold marker and wrote her name over her face on the cover of this book that I am holding. And let me tell you something. I cherish it.
Dude, let me just tell you. I was turning away from another booth, like same situation where people were there on their cell phones, and I saw you, and I saw this little girl and her adult supervision, for lack of a better term, and she was selling so hard. Like I purposely like was hovering around you, only because I didn't want to get sucked into her gravity, so I have to buy her stuff as well. Because literally, I dropped like $40 on some merch like 4 tables down, and I wasn't ready to drop another $40 or something after that.
It was $10.
Yeah,
I will pay the $10 for that pitch, for that young woman to go home and know that enthusiasm pays off. To love your project as much as she loved that, she got a sale. It was so refreshing to see that enthusiasm in that kid's eyes. She was so involved and she was, you can see she was honing her pitch. I'm sure by Sunday, if she was there the entire week, I bet it was like a knife. I bet she was carving through crowds, just like, hey, Kid Brooklyn, get over here. You want to read this? I'm in it, and I have a gold marker, and I'll sign it. Like just get down to the core. And I wish I would have seen her on a Sunday just to see where that pitch ended up. You know?
Seriously, who knows? Like it's like I had the idea in my head. Like I think there was 6 different kids in that book. I wouldn't be surprised they brought up a different kid every day.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be amazing. If they all had that enthusiasm, just have like a different kid each day, and then Sunday have them all there. Could you imagine how many books they would have sold if they brought all those kids with all that enthusiasm and love for this book and just had them all pitch the book to people as they walk by? They would sell out every copy.
We should probably find them on Instagram and see if that actually happened.
I'm going to find them. I'm going to tag them in this episode so they know that their pitch reached at least 2 people.
Awesome.
Because I'm giving Kid Brooklyn a shout out and that little girl who sold that book to me. So we kind of experienced 2 ends of the spectrum, and then kind of everything in between. Like we ran into some people who were more aloof with their pitch. Versus some folks who were, really interesting with their pitch, who weren't, super excited, but they certainly knew their stuff. Like that, who was it? The lady we bought the history of Black comics.
Yes. So Carl picked up the Encyclopedia of Black Comics, and then on top of that, they had a couple more books to sell as well. One I picked up was called Tales of the Talented Tenth. And it's the true adventures of amazing African Americans. And I picked up 2 of them. One was the story of Bass Reeves, and legend has it he was a real inspiration for the Lone Ranger. And the second one is based on the motorcycle queen of Miami. The motorcycle queen's name is Bessie Stringfield. So this is all the stuff that I'm so excited to go through, and like that was the other reason like I loved this year Comic-Con was seeing the amount of Black creators, and not only like African American, but even African. Like there was a huge African presence that came out this year in terms of like even independent artists. So that was pretty amazing in itself.
I want to close out this episode with a quick question that I think everyone's been asked who went to Comic-Con. Dan, in your time at Comic-Con New York 2017, what was your favorite cosplay that you ran across?
Be very honest. Misty, not Misty, the Mistress. Wow. Once again, it's late. So the Mistress is, spoilers, the female interpretation of the Master from Doctor Who. And it was the only, it's like, yeah, they may have been different mistresses on the floor, but this one popped out to me because, like, from afar, you can tell exactly who she was, right? And at the same time, like, she didn't have the shape of the Mistress, but that costume was on point. And it was so on point, like, I had to go up to her and just, like, lean over to her real quick and just whisper, like, I love your costume, and just keep it moving.
So my favorite one is we ran across a really good Moon Knight.
Yes.
The cosplay we saw was great because in no way, shape, or form was this outfit a Moon Knight outfit. It was someone picked up a bunch of stuff they had or found and made a Moon Knight outfit so well that the moment I caught it out of the corner of my eye, I remember you said, who's that guy supposed to be? And as I turn, I go, that's Moon Knight. And he goes, yup, I'm Moon Knight. I was like, he said it like I was the first person to get it. And that was great. Like that's why I love Comic-Con. You get those little moments where you're like, oh snap, I know exactly who you're supposed to be. And he's like, for real?
Yep, absolutely.
So that kind of ranks as my top. And just to throw this out there, it has nothing to do with 2017 Comic-Con. I actually saw this in 2016 Comic-Con. It was my all-time favorite cosplay. It was a mother, a father, and a baby. They were pushing a carriage. The father was Cyclops, the mother was Jean Grey, and the baby was Professor X. They were pushing the carriage, and it looked like Professor X's his hovering chair.
Please say you have pictures of this.
I don't have pictures of it because when we saw it, they were walking towards us. It was super crowded, and I'm looking at the mom, and I was like, "Oh, she's Jean Grey, and he's Cyclops," because they looked exactly like the characters. And I looked down, and I'm like, "Oh, they have a carriage," and I'm moving out of the way, and it didn't strike me until I looked inside the carriage because it was just like it was like yellow. It had like yellow paneling around it. I didn't really put anything together. The baby had a suit on. A little bald baby with a suit on, and I was like, oh snap, that's Professor X. And the mom looks at me and smiles, and the father's like, yep, I think that's a good place to call it. Thank you all for listening. Just to do a little housekeeping, you can follow us on Twitter at superblackorg or follow Dan.
Thebasementmonster.com. For I am the_basement_monster on Instagram. And don't go to Twitter because I'm never actually on Twitter.
There you go. So you can follow both of us on Twitter at superblack.org.
Yes.
Or
also,
yeah.
Before we go, I just want to do these guys justice. It's not comicattack.com. It's comicattack.net.
There you go. Comicattack.net. You're getting a shout out on a podcast you've probably never listened to, but you will now because you love us. So
the guys that I met from that website are totally amazing. A great conversation.
Great, guys. We want to hear from you guys. If you're listening to the podcast, get in touch with us, and maybe you can come on and we can all have a chat. See, this is how we get people together. We're making connections, chatting, growing the network. It's all a beautiful thing. Please rate and subscribe on iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating. Tell your friends. Tell your mom. Tell your grandmother. Tell your babysitter. Tell your babysitter's babysitter. If there's some kind of weird hierarchy that you guys go through, I don't know. But tell everybody you know about the podcast and let them know that we're all cool guys and we want to talk about cool things with cool people. Thank you for listening. That's all we got, guys. This has been Super Black. Full stop.
See you real soon.